cultural universals. Even though we see so much diversity in the world, there are some things that all cultures in all places at all times have in common. So here's some things that all cultures have in common. They all have a concept of food, some sort of modesty, a sense of shelter, their sex and gender roles, tool use, communication, cooperation. There's roles that are based on gender and age.
Slow down.
Yeah, bro. Like, why are you speeding through this, bro? Like, I can't.
I'm sorry. I'll start again. I forgot that I'm not writing these on the whiteboard, my virtual whiteboard. So cultural universals. Everyone has a concept of food, of some sort of covering or modesty, shelter, sex mores, tool use, communication, cooperation, education, roles, and we're going to talk about roles when I'm done with this list. Roles can be based on gender, age, life experience, taboos. We did a taboo talk last class. Rules, laws, norms, values, belief in the supernatural, art, and classifications for reality. These are things you can find in all cultures at all times in the world. Now, even though these are universals, so the concept of modesty is a cultural universal. How that's going to look is going to be wildly different depending on the culture you're in. So, for example, I read this account of this Arab Bedouin who was taking some European tourists across the Sahara in like a caravan. And his wife and family was with him. And his wife's camel got spooked and knocked her off the camel. And even though she was wearing a full burqa, it flipped up over her head. And so she was exposed like the day she was born with everything but her face. And he ran over, helped straighten her out, got her burqa back down. And the Europeans are kind of trying to avert their eyes, right, be polite. But then this Arabic Muslim man praised his wife for keeping her virtue and her modesty. And the Europeans were kind of snorting like, we don't know what you saw, but we pretty much saw the whole thing. But see, from his culture and his mindset, as long as she was able to keep her face covered, she was able to keep her virtue or her modesty. Even though she shouldn't intentionally be flashing people with her burqa, she did what she needed to do in that extreme accident of being thrown from a camel. Now, in other cultures, as long as someone is wearing body paint, they feel like they're wearing clothing. But if that paint got washed off, they would feel as naked as you or I would without clothes. Or it might simply be a string tied around their abdomen with a bead on it. As long as they have that string and a bead, they feel perfectly clothed and modest. If that bead comes off, they would feel naked and embarrassed like we would. Isn't that interesting? And so we're even conditioned about modesty from our culture. And think about growing up, how we have different standards of modesty for young children, adolescents, and mature or old people. And that is something we are taught as a cultural role.